Cosmic here, and welcome back to another Legends of Runeterra video. Today we're going to be talking about a really old classic that's been popping up again. So this Thresh LUX deck is actually from like patch 1.2 or 1.3, like forever ago, actual months. But recently it's been popping up in tournaments that happened over the weekend, and also a couple different players have been using it in Masters, so we had to include it in our Team Leviathan Gaming meta snapshot. And I think it's a very solid tier 2 deck. I'd put it like right in the middle of the pack. You have some like very middling matchups overall, but as you start to learn it and you still see the different patterns that it has, it can be a really rewarding deck to play. And what's awesome to do if you really get to pull it off, so for those that don't know about Thresh, because it hasn't seen a ton of play and it's played a more niche role recently, what Thresh does is you see 6 units die and he levels up. He actually pulls out a champion from your deck. In this case, it's going to be LUX. So it kind of like, what is the most fun thing that this deck can do? You can actually level up Thresh, get a LUX back, assuming one died, right? You can rekindler to play another Thresh, or not another Thresh, but another LUX in this case, get another LUX on the board, and then suddenly just combo off these really big spells that, you know, cost 6 or more, or maybe you do like a single combat in a glimpse and just throw all these final sparks at your opponent. So that was a lot, but let's talk about LUX in case you're not familiar with this card. So with LUX, she's a little bit difficult, I will admit. It's not the easiest champion to play, especially in this very greedy mid-range meta, early 1.6 that's going on. But she's a 6-drop. She has barrier, which is nice because you can usually get in a free attack with her. What's not nice, at least in the current meta, right? You have to be really worried about the Ash Reckoning list. It's going to be really tough for you to kind of stick this on the board, at least the first one, and come out of it ahead. But if you can get through that, if you can cast the spells, then the first time that you cast that 6-cost spell and every time after, or again, it's a combination of 6 mana, right? So it could be like single combat, glimpse, and vile feast, right? That'll all give you 6. It's just any combination of it. It's really important to note here, if you spend like a 5-cost spell and a 6-cost spell, it doesn't roll over into the next one. So make sure you're spending your spell-related mana as carefully as possible, or I should say your mana on spells. And then what's really nice with Final Spark is this little detail that can kind of go overlooked sometimes is, yes, the spell does have Overwhelm. So this is a really great way to sneak in damage, especially if your opponent has some like 2 health or maybe even 1 health remaining. This then becomes a removal spell that's also going to burn them for some amount of damage. So, you know, you might be asking yourself, is this more of a mid-range deck? Is it more of a control deck? And the answer is it falls in this really awkward area between them. So if you're going up against a Karma Ezreal deck, for example, you really want to pressure them very early on, and very easily can be done with Grizzled Ranger and Radiant Guardians, right? The key theme against Karma Ezreal decks is just beefy, resilient Demacia cards. And actually, Remembrance will do a very good job of this as well, because as long as you let something die first so that you always trigger your Radiant Guardian, which again is going to be one of your better 5-drops you can have in a lot of matchups, but not that one in particular. You want to go for the Scout instead. It just provides good value, good sticking power, right? Like their Mystic Shots aren't going to do it. Their Gotchas really don't do anything. So they really have to rely on these Wills of Ionias, which are very expensive now at 5, or just a Thermo Beam, right? And then if they Thermo Beam, let's say you get to live the ultimate dream, right? They Thermo Beam your Grizzle Ranger, well, you still get a 3/4 out of it, so you're still keeping board presence, which can be very difficult for them to interact with. And then what's really nice is I found that because they are so tanky and so good at keeping value over time, we play Vanguard Sergeant, which gives us 4 Demacia, and surprisingly, this card is really going to come in clutch in a lot of different ways. So one up front, it's a 6-cost spell, so it's a free trigger for LUX to give you a Final Spark. You're going to have a very hefty board presence to begin with, and especially with your rekindlers that you're getting back for more value turn after turn, right? It's going to give you, you know, that a 7/7 body off the rekindler alone, and everything else is also going to get buffed +3. So suddenly you have a very aggressive board that is going to trade against your opponent's board very favorably, right? Like +3/+3 is pretty significant in this game. And then if anything is, you know, struggling to survive at the end, maybe it has like 1 HP left, you come in with the Final Spark and you clean it up. So I really like this deck from a, you know, yes, it is, I'd put it more in the, you know, mid-range category because it has turns like that. But then don't forget, like at the top end, you still have this just like grindy rekindler value engine that can keep pressuring your opponent's plays, especially if they're on this like vengeance line or just very all in one target removal. Rekindler just comes in to punish them. So yes, it is a mid-range deck, probably at its core at best, but you do need to understand when you're the control deck respectively. And I think that just comes down to knowing the game in general and kind of, you know, are you the beatdown? That's like the magic term to use. Like, you know, am I supposed to be the aggressive one in this matchup? Like, so in the example that I gave, right, you queue into Karma Ezreal decks, you have to ask yourself, am I the aggro deck or am I the control deck? And in that case, you're the aggro deck, or just you're the more aggressive deck, right, is what I should be saying. And that's going to affect your mulligan decisions as well. Now, if you're going against something that's going to, you know, be more along the lines of discard aggro or some of those more early game plays, right, then you just want to look for your low drop. Vile Feasts are very good, and, you know, just trying to find that more lower curve interaction list of cards. Now, all that said, otherwise, this is just a Demacia Shadow Isles good stuff deck. And, you know, if I'm going to have one negative to say about it, this is kind of one of the things I don't like about a mid-range meta, and it is very early on, so this might change, but it really comes down to just a pile of good cards with whoever has like the greedy over-the-top synergy that gets there, and then who draws their big over-the-top, you know, play usually is what's going to win the game, right? So Harrowing is really good right now. Atrocity is seeing play again. You know, more of those style of cards, because Ionia is not really in the meta as much to really keep them in check. So it's a really interesting dynamic to see how this is playing out. So otherwise, this is a pretty straightforward deck. However, there's like one combo, I'm just going to call it that. It's obviously the synergy that plays off very well. So scouts are very good. And why do I say that? Obviously, other than just giving you a free attack, it works in this deck very well. So the two ways that we have to do it, because obviously this card probably looks a little weird if you're not seeing how it blends together, so I want to take time to, you know, explain it. But we have Blinding Salt and we have Grizzled Ranger. What's really nice about these two cards is that they're coming down before turn 5. So in theory, what you want to do is get this online. Let's say you're at 5 mana, open attack, get your scout trigger. They block it, it dies. You're like, man, you know, this is a threat they want to get off the board. But then you follow up with your Radiant Guardian, and then you still have the attack token. What's really nice about this, because the way spell mana works, right, it's not hard to then go on turn 5, and unfortunately I didn't get to showcase it in the games where I'd show a clip of it. You know, on turn 5 with spell mana, you can go Blinding Assault. It's going to give you the scout trigger, or they just straight up kill it before you can swing, right? And then you still get something that dies, and then you can play your Radiant Guardian. So really you get to live the dream of remove one of their threats, trigger your Radiant Guardian, and then still swing in for 5 damage. So I will say, right, because you see the triple Radiant Guardian, we also have triple Remembrance, which can also give you Radiant Guardian, right? There's a lot of ways where you're just going to punish some more aggressive strategies, so definitely keep in mind that you're looking for those types of cards. Now, the one, you know, I've talked about the Harrowing, the Atrocity, the Greedy. What do I go over the top with? And in this list, which is probably the main reason why I put it like at a solid tier 2, kind of in the middle of the ground. Unyielding Spirit is that card that if you're not going against Will of Ionia, you stick it on a Lux, you're like, all right, look, I got Final Sparks for the rest of the game. You can't touch this. Well, that's not necessarily true. They can just go wide and kill you all the same. This doesn't have the same going over the top power that cards like Atrocity or Harrowing, and I'm sure there's other examples. Those are the ones that are stuck in my mind right now. Riptide Rex even, right? Like the more of those solid game enders are what you should be playing. That Unyielding Spirit still just feels like a bad card. However, there's some matchups right now in the meta, and again, because Ionia is not as prevalent, that you can even stick this on like a Radiant Guardian and you don't care because you have a 5/5 lifesteal that just keeps gaining you life every single turn, and 5/5 is still decent enough stats where most of the time it's gonna be chumping away at their board anyway, so it's fine. It's a nice one of. The problem here is like you can't even use Harrowing in this deck because you Harrowing back, you get like a Lux and a Thresh. It's just like value stuff, but it doesn't actually give you like the Final Sparks and other things that you want to be doing. So it's kind of awkward that way. And then it's like, okay, what about Atrocity? Well, there's nothing else over the top that really does it, right? And if you go to the bottom here in terms of like what other cards are good, it's like, okay, well, we could put in like Commander Ladros and Atrocity, right? You just take out 2 cards and do that. Sure, that's probably the option that I would go with, but honestly, Unyielding Spirit, fine as a one-of, but if you can find room, definitely a Ladros, and maybe if you really want to live the dream, you can get the Atrocity in there as well. But there's not a lot of other like go over the top cards, especially in Demacia, right? Like you could argue Bright Steel Formation because it's just a big 9/9. It's going to protect your board. Sure, but it's not as, you know, it doesn't have that same game-winning punch your opponent in the face power that you might like it to. Now, again, if this kind of mid-range meta stays as it were, this is a good way to do it. So this is a way to protect your board and swing through for damage. However, your units are usually a little bit weaker than what you would like, right? Like, let's think about Thresh, let's think about Lux. They go up to like 4 and 5 power, respectively. Getting a barrier on that doesn't do a lot. Your opponent probably still has a board after that. So this is where you'd really want to see, like, it's in a different deck entirely, like, right? Like, Shen could buff your entire board with that. Some other things that you have is just, like, Rasa if you want to clean up their board. And then this has 7 attack, which can be nice. But otherwise, again, if you're just looking for those kind of flex spots, I'd really have to give it to, like, Ladros and Atrocity because it just is a good combo that you have access to because you're playing Shadow Isle. So, overall, do I like this deck? Yes, again, I think it's a very solid tier 2 deck. It's not something that we've seen for a very, very long time. And I do think if the meta kind of stays where it's at right now, it's a pretty decent deck to play. Like tonight I went +2, I think, with it in the short amount of time I had to stream. So I'll have to pull some videos from, or some matches from the stream, which you'll see here for the games that I have for you today. But it's just okay, and it's something different. So if you're looking for a deck that can still climb in Masters and is something that, you know, barely anybody is playing, absolutely take the deck code, queue it up, and you're good to go. However, I will say, keep in mind, that is my like normal disclaimer that I'll say, right now it's playable, but if you're watching this video a week from now and the meta's shifted to something completely different, it might not still have the same viability, and it might just be like a terrible list that no one can play anymore. So please keep in mind, that's like my #1 disclaimer I want to tell people when they're looking at Runeterra videos. If it's older than a week, take the list, use it as a shell, but then go to Mobalytics, which I did another video on in terms of how to look at the data and understand, okay, what are my good matchups, what are my bad matchups, and then understand the fundamentals of what cards are beating my deck and what cards are good in my deck against others. So again, to use the Karma Ezreal example, just having these very resilient threats like Grizzled Ranger and Radiant Guardian can really go the distance for you, especially with Wheel of Ionia being on the, you know, downswing that is. Now, some decks are still playing it, and I think they should still be playing it, but at least in the last week of this meta, it hasn't been around as much. So with that, that's a very high overview of the deck. Obviously, you know, in terms of like the cool plays that you can do, the Grizzled Ranger and Blinding Assault is really about it. Otherwise, again, it's just a good pile of Demacia and Shadow Isles cards. So if you like these regions and this looks interesting to you, again, at least at the time of recording this, it is a good deck. I was climbing in Masters with it tonight, and I think it can pair up very well against certain matchups in the meta where you can use this to climb, you know, Platinum, Diamond, and even higher if you want. So with that, I'm going to leave it to the games for now. Of course, please make sure to like and subscribe. That does help me out a ton with future videos if you want to see more Legends of Runeterra content. But other than that, you can find me streaming Monday through Friday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern at night on Twitch, Cosmic Plays, where I do most of my content. I just try to get a YouTube video out when I can. But otherwise, be safe, my friends. Make sure you drink water, and I'll see you next time. Cheers. We have Maokai and Twisted Fate. What? I'm gonna assume that this is a mill deck of sorts. Remembrance is like an okay keep. That's like one of the other main lines in the deck. Single combat's like decent, but I'm gonna try a mulligan here for some more early action. Maybe even a Grizzled Ranger would be nice. I don't think that they'll add more to the event pass. I think the rest of the stuff is just going into the shop. Plucky pour over hapless aristocrat. I'm not too sure I can get down on that, but there's a chance where we swap out the 1-drops. Man, so if there's one thing I don't like about this deck, it's that I do nothing most of the time until turn 3. And again, they have no way to really counter this, so this is just a free play. And that is literally the worst hit that I could get So I'm just gonna cry. And arguably, we probably should. This is gonna like heal him, right? But I do want to start pressuring their board with this and get it low enough where we can then trick them into killing it to get the Radiant Guardian. I do not have a good deck for this Shroom mission, unfortunately. All right, salvage. Unfortunate for us, we don't really have any good pickups here. And again, we gotta make sure we save the single combat for like the Maokai and stuff that's a little bit more of a threat to us. So again, just looks like we're gonna bank some spell mana, attack. Yeah, no real follow-up here, which is unfortunate. Maybe they're playing Grasp, so they like block, they get their toss too, and then we can sack and Radiant in response. This is what we would say not a great opener for us. And like the double Lux is looking pretty not great as well. Oh, this is Swim's deck, but I don't know it past that, so I'm kind of just in the dark here. So they're playing Devourer and Hoarder. Oh, look at you! Right on time, my guy. Good to see ya. All right. Well, the good news here is that we can drop the Lux and get swinging.
We should too.
Okay, for as long as Yasuo decks have been like super medium though, I think we can wait like 2 weeks. Wait a little bit. Let Yasuo decks have their fun. But I will agree that it is kind of obnoxious how good it is. So I'm going to assume that my opponent has not a lot going on here. So I actually do want to try to get this off the board and force their resources a bit, right? Because now we can open up 9 damage, and I would definitely, I'd rather have that option. Kind of feels a little bit bad to use our single combat here, but the nice thing is that we do have these strikes in our hand that we can spend most of our turn doing that. So this is going to make it ephemeral, which is nice. Okay, going to take some damage. That's fine. Unfortunately, I don't have the Vile Feast to pick this up, but again, this is going to be a... Whew! Yep, that's kind of a bummer. If they have a Vile Feast, they have a Vile Feast. We could go... Right, so our main goal here should be leveling up Lux. Which means they block here instead. They've only used 1 Vile Feast so far. Better safe than sorry. I guess we could do like Vile Feast and Lux's Barrier if we have to. We have 5 mana, so Sergeant's not it, and we don't want to give them an option to play the Wanderer. I think we're just going to try to poke in some damage with the 5/3. There's no good reason to open ourselves up to the Vile Feast here, or the second Vile Feast. Or make it rain, right? That's probably another option that they have. If Targon spoilers don't start this week, I'm going to be... Whew, I'm going to be upset. I'll let you know right now. This is pretty low investment for us, and I think I like denying the draw here just in case. Vile Feast isn't really doing a whole lot in this matchup for us. Now, the other thing I got to be kind of worried about is if they have Ruination, which I'm assuming they do. Again, I don't know the list perfectly, but I think we will just pass here. If they have a Maokai, they probably want to drop it now, and then we can open up with a Strike. And that's pretty good for us. So I think we will just try to bank some mana here, see what they do. Oh, it's the other one that has Ephemeral. There we go. I figured it out. All right, so literally just need to cast another 2-cost spell. Wow, they're really, all right, there. That TF is getting scary. Oh, they'll do non-Targon cards first. So, yeah, you're right. It's going to be a while until they bring us the big selling point of set 3. I'm actually kind of upset we haven't seen it yet, but, you know, sometimes it do be like that.
The Martian soldiers future is worth tenfold.
All right, so we'll just get a 3/3 on board here. I don't really want to let this stick around. Like, this has ephemeral, so they want to play it. So I think we actually do just try to go for the sacrifice play here. It's going to give us the Lux flip, give us a spell on this. And just overall, it's good value. And also, if they have an action for this, we could just Radiant Guardian instead. I definitely don't want to throw myself into a ruination if we can avoid it. That Maokai is looking pretty threatening at this point, right? And we have to just assume they're going to have Toss here, right? They're going to have Maokai's condition. And actually, now that I say that, we want to keep this other Lux in our hand because then we just can keep cycling the Lux post Maokai Mill. So if I'm not an idiot, we'll save it. It's like the most important thing now. Ooh, and a Remembrance. I mean, new set, new region. Set 3 is super exciting. All right, so I guess technically we want this to be Challenger instead. What are they sitting on for 5? Like, I honestly don't know what my opponent's playing unless they're just sitting on a Ruination awkwardly. I definitely think we want to play something else out here, right? If they have the grasp, they have the grasp. We still have to save this in our hand. So I think we just do go ahead and play the Remembrance out here. Yep, that's fine. It's a pretty good pickup for us. Right, and now our opponent's going to have Maokai, so we just kind of let them do their thing. And again, we also have the Rekindler as a option. But I don't want to walk myself into the Ruination if they have it. So this open attack is literally just free. Right, they're going to mill the rest of their cards. That's fine. And then we have a way to guarantee that we're flipping Luxes here. Like, this is a pretty good Ruination for them, if they have it. Well, not what I was expecting. So, might as well get the Lux down here. Right? And then try to set up, like, the Demasias. Because we want to try to get more value out of these spells, which means we do need to play the Lux out. Also gives it a barrier, which is really nice. So now we have a pretty good attack. Right? Everything's generally pretty beefy. Feeling pretty good about developing the Rekindler here. And again, this is the thing, like, just starting to, you know, grind out our opponent. Yep, this is kind of what I expected, so. They're obviously going to get the Maokai to flip, and then we're just going to start shuffling in Luxes. And now again, because you can't toss your champions, we just have to assume that they're going to get this, you know, no matter what in this case. We could have. I'm just trying to save it as like an emergency for knowing that they're about to mill us out here. I guess they get it this turn anyways. I should have enough removal in hand, right? Like, that's the big should. And TF's really not that scary at this point. I guess we could be lucky and there's like a Maokai somewhere else still in the deck. They're trying to get Pilfered good procs. Well, that'd be unfortunate. He's at 3, so it's like it's not good for us. I guess Vengeance also guarantees the Spark proc. But I want to save this for the flip version. He has spare in hand? Probably. I would not put it past them. And obviously he gets to kill our 3-2 now. But again, he's under
I fight for the fallen.
he's under the amount for ruination, so. Yep. So now we're gonna shuffle a Lux back in our deck and just kill the TF. And I guess we could look at what that generated for us, but right, he's gonna have 2 blockers. Or wait, we're gonna be 1 short then, right? Because he goes to 4 block. Or no, that should be lethal. He'd have to have 2 answers.
We're in this together.
And obviously we can't kill this, or else I'd be all aboard for it. Boop. Yep, and then open swing everything. Again, we don't want to walk ourselves into the scout. Oh, boo. I mean, we have a bit of action in our hand, and again, all these are presenting lethal. If he tries to, I guess if he tries to... He's only played 1 grasp. He probably has a vengeance as well. It's kind of annoying. But if he has like another stun or something, right, that's pretty bad for us. It's like, how much value can we get out of the Lux based on what's in our hand? And this gets chump block plus Vial instead. I wish we had more than 10 to work with. Another pilfer trigger? I think we do try to save it. Well, if they go under 9, right, we just do 4 Demacia anyways.
I'm always up for a round or 2.
Yep, so they go under. So it's 4 Demacia. Get our spark. They should be lethal. And playing a 2-drop doesn't matter.
Dead in their tracks.
And this also gives us the heal, which is nice. Oh, I guess we could have played the aristocrat too, right? But now this will deal 3 damage on the merchant.
Don't ask me.
I wish we could. It has to go on a unit. Good heavens. Well, lucky us, we have the Lux on the bottom, right? So we do have that protection. And now they're out of mana?
By the light!
That egg. Did it move?
No! Oh, you rapscallion.
For justice and all things bright.
All right, well, again, we're just going to keep cycling the Lux, right?
You defile the grove.
You're bluffing.
Add this to your bill.
Like, they have to find a way to remove the Lux still.
You have to get me out of here.
They might be having like a They might have a vengeance, right?
And so, life springs anew.
And I did miss lethal? Probably. There's a very good chance that I did. Oh. They figured it out.